If we are the future of this country, then surely it's time we take off the powdered wigs and put down the inkpot and quill. It's a funny image, but if you think about it, our ancient institution of academia has had to evolve little in the hundreds of years since its inception. That is, until artificial intelligence forced us to rethink our role as researchers and our complacency as knowledge producers. Today, I am here to implore you all to rethink your negative perception of artificial intelligence. Moreover, to think about how we can use AI to positively impact the academic sphere. So, what is ChatGPT? Well, I probably don't have to explain this to a theater full of university students. ChatGPT is a language model developed by OpenAI that uses deep learning tactics to generate human-like text-based responses. And ChatGPT draws from a large database of internet texts. Essentially, give it any prompt and ChatGPT can write you an essay, a recipe book, a presentation. And it even created all the images of itself in this presentation. If video killed the radio star, then ChatGPT, it would seem, has killed the typewriter. Finally, the New York Times tells us, the robots are taking over. Okay, George Orwell, calm down. Like the iPhone or the CD, new technology is always met with a sense of hysteria and sensationalism. I can hear myself now, 10 years from now, telling my kids, it's all because of that damn generative artificial intelligence program that they're putting me in a home. So subsequently, in our minds, AI has become a destructive tool, a lifeless piece of cold technology antithetical to human creativity and empathy. No more so is this view proliferated than in academic spaces of education. Where it was once the calculator, now professors are struggling to grapple with this rampant innovation. Is ChatGPT, as CNBC calls it, simply a tool for widespread plagiarism and laziness, with its ability to generate a 2,000-word essay in under a minute? Should all writing aided by artificial intelligence be immediately penalized? Yes, says the university hosting this TED event. The writing labeled number 2 is an addendum made to the plagiarism declaration of the English Literary Studies Department. Effectively, it bans the use of any artificial intelligence and labels all writing aided by artificial intelligence as academic fraud. Convincing, right? Well, so is the Y2K bug, and we're still using technology. I think it's time we all collectively take off our tinfoil hats. Artificial intelligence is a rapidly developing, powerful piece of technology that, if utilized effectively, can have massive positive impacts on the future of academia. As Peter Gildenhuys aptly summarizes it, AI will not replace people, but the person using AI, they might replace you. So, do you want to be at the forefront of perhaps the greatest innovation to writing as we know it? Or are you hoping that BlackBerry and Mixit make a comeback? This choice to embrace AI is not just a personal one. It is finally as a result of AI that this antiquated institution of higher learning can reinvent itself and reimagine the role of the academic researcher. Through this talk, we will explore how ChatGPT can decolonize essay writing, overcome class and geographical limitations, increase accessibility, and, supremely, encourage the researcher to include the voices of the marginalized who have been historically silenced by Western academia. So, how many of you here today speak English as your first language? Unsurprisingly, in South Africa, English is not only not the first language of majority of the population, but it is a language condemned by the histories of oppression and segregation inflicted by its speakers. And yet, in any essay, in any field, we are marked by how well we confine to colonialist standards of essay writing. For all UCT aims to decolonize with its new building names, this form of written assessment rooted in patriarchal and racist institutions still remains. So, for the 9 out of 10 South Africans who don't speak English natively or have generational trauma regarding the language, they are at an educational disadvantage. Let me repeat that. 90% of South Africans who are passionate about history, sociology, psychology, linguistics will fail out of or refrain from going into humanities altogether because of a systemic language barrier. To that effect, ChatGPT evens the playing field, as students who do not speak English natively can input their ideas into the program and have it correct their grammar or make it sound more eloquent, as you can see above. I gave ChatGPT my own words, my intellectual property. No plagiarism is taking place, but in fact, we are allowing publishers, lecturers, and markers to hear the arguments and insights of bright young individuals who otherwise would have been disregarded. My words are transformed into an academically accepted rhetoric that would receive far higher marks just because it confines to a colonialist standard of speaking, which sounds very pretty but means very little. So by encouraging this use of ChatGPT, we provide the space for alternative modernities, oral histories, and a breadth of new voices to emerge in the academic research sphere. The ability of AI to make humanities more accessible does not just end with grammar correction. In fact, ChatGPT's ability to succinctly summarize academic readings allows researchers to get the main argument of an academic work without having to read through pages of filler and alienating academic language. Again, this would apply to students with language barriers, but moreover to those with learning disabilities who struggle to concentrate when bombarded with lines of superfluous words and sardonic academic language. For the neurodivergent individuals who are often ignored by academia and labeled as lazy or incapable, ChatGPT provides them access to vital information through an accessible method. Furthermore, ChatGPT prompts researchers to limit their use of alienating language in their work. The days of bourgeoisie writing and academic elitism are behind us. It is time that students with unrecognized viewpoints are able to convey their unique perspectives regardless of how well they can read or write. Therefore, I say in my colonialist academic style of speaking, ChatGPT is not a tool for plagiarism. It's one for inclusivity and diversity. However, I would be remiss to say that ChatGPT is not in of itself a colonialist, alienating form of technology. Because ChatGPT is developed in the Anglophone world and trained in English, it is therefore prone to the biases of these communities. Subsequently, it can and will only spew out Eurocentric, westernized accounts. Above are just two examples. If a student asks ChatGPT what was the Industrial Revolution, they will receive a typically British imperial answer, with no mention of other countries' direct and monumentous impact on the rise of modern industrialization. Furthermore, when asked what was World War I, ChatGPT could do little than offer an imperialist view. Without the sources available to it, it inevitably ignored the important contributions made by millions under imperial subjugation. Aha, says UCT and my lecturers, you can't use ChatGPT. It's unauthentic, it's biased, it's colonialist. Are we then meant to give up on this program and therefore allow for the further proliferation of colonialist, westernized historiography? No. Remember what I said. ChatGPT can only generate from what it has. Now more than ever, it is the duty of the academic historian to research and publish the stories of the marginalized and the silenced. We must continue researching and investigating all those who have been excluded from the historical canon, so that when a student across the globe tomorrow or 10 years from now types into ChatGPT who discovered South Africa, the existence of indigenous tribes and complex civilizations prior to colonialization come up. Through a dedicated effort and collaboration with artificial intelligence, we for the first time have the opportunity to reshape history to be canonically inclusive, diverse, and empowering. It is time that African writers take back their histories and create a database of information that is authentically African, Africanized truths, and shaped by Africanized ideologies. Because if the natural resources that built the computer that built ChatGPT comes from Africa, stop letting it whitewash your histories. Okay, but what about our jobs? Big question. Will you still be able to write your screenplay at Starbucks if a computer program can do it at the click of a button? Well, that depends. You see, ChatGPT is not limiting your access to writing jobs. It's limiting your ability to be mediocre. Sorry, guys. Don't know what to say. Again, ChatGPT can only generate from what already exists. Its work is in effect a bland, coagulated clump of every other author in existence, because it's drawing from every other author in existence. Take, for example, our novel, Whispering Hearts. Written by ChatGPT, it's about Emily and James, a white, heteronormative couple that fall in love in a bookstore with no character development whatsoever. I wouldn't necessarily call that Pulitzer Prize winning, but whatever you're into. The fears around ChatGPT are not necessarily unfounded, but they are giving a lot of power to a computer program that thought the stair wizard was Harry Potter. ChatGPT effectively writes the same cookie-cutter stories as every other author and replicates them without the heart, emotion, or human touch. And with regards to academic research in all fields, I think it's safe to say that we should not be afraid of artificially generated reports. No reputable journal or publication would publish work that is in effect a shallow summary of work already well known enough that ChatGPT used it. For example, people with anxiety are more nervous than people without it. Wow, ChatGPT, groundbreaking. If ChatGPT, a program that generates based on thousands of other generic inputs, can replicate your work well enough that it takes your job, maybe you never had the ingenuity in the first place to be a writer. Perhaps then, this writing program is a wake-up call to writers to reinvent their mediums. We can look at what ChatGPT thinks a fantasy novel is, turn it on its head, invert it, and thereby innovate it. ChatGPT is forcing us to fight for our right to produce literary work, and it's telling us that no longer can heteronormative, generic, archetypal stories be enough. We now have to create something new, something that has never been done before, and the best way to do that is to write about the people and perspectives that are lacking, the stories that ChatGPT can't replicate because they don't exist yet. Frankly, I can't wait to see what exciting and fresh creative works emerge because of this program, both in an effort to combat it and through collaboration with it. Like most of us here today, ChatGPT had me wondering if a future in academia would ever be possible, now that a computer program could write an essay in the time I would take to think of a title. But I refuse to give up on humanities, an essay-driven faculty. In fact, I see artificial intelligence as an opportunity. It is an opportunity to make elitist fields of academia more accessible. It is the chance to reignite historical and classical writing, and it is the chance to usher in a renaissance of academic work that centers on those disregarded by Western academia: LGBTQIA+, people of color, and women. We can make a new archive of information that is far more inclusive and authentic than that of the Eurocentric, colonialist historiography that, frankly, we're all sick of. No longer are STEM and humanities divided. With ChatGPT, we have the chance to determine how technology is developed to propagate empathy, diversity, and correct the epistemological mistakes of the past. I have barely touched on the multitude of valuable and intriguing ways that ChatGPT can be used to positively affect all of our lives, not just in our university space. If I have not convinced you today, I hope at the very least I have inspired you to research how you can use ChatGPT in your own field. Moreover, I hope I have shown you all that it is time we stop looking at concepts like technology, computer science, and maths as apolitical. The technology we use has a deep, fundamental role in shaping our understanding of ourselves and our pasts. As we have seen with ChatGPT, technology has the ability to change our world, but we also have the agency to determine what that artificially generated world looks like and what stories we allow to be told in it. This may seem futile, but remember, what use is a Kindle if nobody's writing the books? Thank you.